Welcome to the broadcast, my dear fruit crumbles, and greetings to those of you who have subscribed over the weekend. There were a few hundred of you dropping by to become fruit basketeers. Welcome. Welcome to the fruit basket. I wanted to show you what I've been up to over the last few days because I took receipt of this antique glass pendant. It's Edwardian, and I know that it doesn't look anything special, but I promise you when it's in situ and there's a nice dimmable bulb, it's going to look wonderful, hanging from the little corner that I want to put it in. I'll show you when it's up, but that'll probably be several months away, and I've got to get a ceiling rose for it first of all. But I'm showing you because I've been jazzing it up. The canopy and the chains were black when I received them, but they were black covered in a sort of sooty tarnish or rust, I'm not sure what it was, which actually looked rather nice and rather spooky. It would be wonderful in an old pub corner or somewhere more gothic in tone, but it wouldn't work for me, so I actually ended up dissolving it off in a bucket of vinegar. Yes, I put the whole affair in vinegar and it rinsed it all off over 12 to 24 hours. And then underneath it was a sort of brassy affair, but some patches came up a little bit greeny, some patches came up pinky, and I didn't like the aesthetic, and I kind of regretted taking off the black, although that wasn't quite what I wanted. So I painted the chains black. Actually, I dipped them in a paint pot of metal black paint. I just took the risk, my dear, and painted the canopy, and I love the way that it's turned out. I really do. I think that's going to be fabulous, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with the brass band here, because I can't get the tarnish off with brasso, but I'll find some way to get it looking nice, I'm sure. Oh, and when I sniffed that brasso, that stuff that you scrub up the old brass instruments with, oh, it took me back, my dear. You know that smell of the brasso? It took me straight back to the schoolroom, the classroom, the brass band at school. I played the cornet, and it's a smell that I haven't sniffed for a very long time. Oh, it really conjured up that nostalgia, as smells and fragrance does. Wonderful it was. I'm floating off into the past, but we have to come back into the present and discuss the disgusting behaviour of the Harkles. She's been running through the waves today. Running through the waves, life is a beach for Medusa Markle as she springs from the sea foam with her brazen temerity. Actually, she reminds me of Michael Jackson. I think Michael Jackson's been resurrected in Markle form, and he's taking the kids to Disneyland again. Yes, they've got the same teeth, the same hair, the same pale complexion. Meghan, of course, doesn't have his talent, not in that department anyway, and she ain't got much rhythm either, no matter the twerking that she gets up to, other than grabbing her crotch and jiggling about and shrieking the odd hee 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 hee, Harry, Harry, hee hee, I'm bad, you know it's Shimon, hee hee, Harry. And both Meghan and Michael, they love kiddies, don't they? I should say they love the kiddie amusement parks. They love hanging around at the fairground. Not strange at all. And they also both love veiling their children. The mystery as the kids are shrouded and blanketed in various guises. Well, of course, Meghan lately has taken to shrouding the children in emojis. Yes, heart emojis seem to be the order of the day to tease in their little game of peekaboo. Well, Disneyland would be a wonderful treat for any child, wouldn't it? And I'm sure it was for the Harkle children, if the public spectacle of the whole affair weren't so vulgar and commercialised, because I'm presuming that they've been paid to promote Disneyland in this fashion. Now, I could be wrong there. I could be wrong. But if I am wrong and they're not being paid, then they are quite evidently hustling for sponsors of that kind. And using the children to do it. And yes, it was a splendid birthday cake for Lily Bucks, wasn't it? With Murchie looking on. It was Ariel the Mermaid. It was Ariel the Mermaid in celebration, no doubt, of Lilibet's red hair. The red-haired heroine of Ariel, but woe betide. Woe betide, Harkles, because mermaids and Ariel, they are mascots of the letters community. And the trans community in particular, my dear, so woe betide. Watch out, my dears, watch out. for Lily transitioning into Philly over the next few years. Can you imagine, my dear? From Lily to Philly, once named for the late Queen Lilibet, and now for the late Duke Philip. Oh, they'll cover all bases, my dear. They'll cover all bases. So excited for all the good to come, says Meghan, running into the weekend like a wave of detritus, of seaweed, and of sewage. Well, I'm told, by the way, from those who have seen the family at very close quarters, I'm actually told how adorable they all are, and we can see this in the photographs. The children look absolutely lovely, and it seems to me, and from what I'm told by those who've seen at close quarters, that it's a very happy family, and I'm pleased to see it. I've got to tell you, I'm not such a sourpuss that I'm not pleased to see their happiness. You know, Harry has known unimaginable tragedy in his young life, and unimaginable grief, and I'm never going to minimise that. Doesn't mean I excuse all his behaviours of late, but I don't minimise the tragedy he's known. And also Meghan's family suck, so I don't begrudge them a second of joy. Life can be a bleak and lonely place for the best of us. What is it Oscar Wilde says? It's simply a mauvais quart d'heure, made up of exquisite moments. So I don't begrudge them the odd exquisite moment, and I'm glad that they seem to be making the most of them. However, it is the rank hypocrisy of publicising and merchandising their family outing that sticks in the craw, parading the grandchildren around all over Disneyland as mouseketeers on stilts. They probably would prefer to be basketeers. They'd be welcome to join the fruit basket, my dear. It's not the children's fault, but Harry and Meghan, no. You can watch the broadcast as much as you like, my dear, and copy all my ideas, from keepsakes to jam, but you ain't ever going to be fruit basketeers, so don't try it. They maraud all over Disneyland as mouseketeers, while in possession of their royal styles and titles. I can't condone this kind of behaviour. I cannot condone it, because the two don't mix. And I was almost a lone voice, actually, in approving when they shielded their children from public view. Why did I need to see them? I had no interest in them. I actually approved of them shielding them and protecting them from the public gaze throughout all of these years. I totally did. But this is different. This is different. This is a game of peekaboo that's going on right now in public, and it's trashy. It's déclassé, and it is vulgar in the extreme. Downright vulgar. Because yes indeed, the children are out again, brought out to make coin for mummy and papa. For their darling mummy and for papa. Making coin. And I do wonder, by the way, at this juncture, if those people out there who insisted that the children don't exist, or that they're dolls, or that they're being hidden due to various syndromes that Lily has, which she evidently doesn't, are you beginning to see now how you've been duped and lied to? Not by the Harkles, in this instance, but by online mischief makers whose pockets you've been lining with your attention. But some of these people will grip to their preposterous notions to the grave, so what else can I say? But, ask the actress that played Elsa, although I can hear them screaming, she's a stooge, she's a Harkle plant. They'll go to any lengths, but it's quite evident that if you were to approach this actress who's playing Elsa, that she would tell you and would confirm, in fact, that the bairns are quite real. She looked them both in their faces, and she would tell you that they look like both of their parents. Yes, indeed. And by the way, an old flame of mine played Prince Charming. Did I tell you this before? He was cast as Prince Charming in the parade, the Disney parade, and he did look just like, he still does look like a Disney prince. So handsome, enormous Willie. Enormous Willie, quite cartoonish in size actually, and thoroughly impractical, but quite nice to look at. Unfortunately, his wardrobe was situated abroad at this Disney that he worked at, so he didn't wear it for me, but very princely he was in quite a few ways, and such largesse of membership, but I digress. I'm actually envious because I never got to go to Disneyland, Florida. Now, I have many American fruit basketeers, and I absolutely adore them. And you might like to know, my dears, that our naughty American cousins, I call you, don't I? Well, you might like to know that when I was growing up, when I was a young child at primary school, America, we didn't call it the States, we just called it America, my dear. And for us, it was the most glamorous destination that one could possibly think of. Fuck Europe and all the other continents. Everyone Everyone as children, you know, we saw the imported movies and everything from America, and we heard of the Epcot Center and Universal Studios and, you know, MGM and Disneyland, Florida. That was where everyone wanted to go. Well, I never got to go to that, although I did go to Euro Disney, the European version. Actually, we had a lovely time there. Yeah, actually, I can remember getting lost on the way to Euro Disney. It's sort of east of Paris, not far from Paris. I can remember my mother hanging out the window asking the locals when we got lost. Where is Euro Disney? Where is Euro Disney? Where is it, my dear? And the Parisian gentleman couldn't help us. Pardon? Where? Euro Disney, where is it? And you suddenly saw him clock. Euro Disney. Of course, the pronunciation was different, but ever since then, in the family, we always call it Euro Disney. Oui. But yeah, I'm envious of them going there for a nice day out, but I'm not envious of the absolutely vulgar way that it's brandished all over the socials. How common. It is common and déclassé. Apologies, my dear, you probably just saw my hairnet falling down just then. It's because it's been holding in place the battery to this flashing tiara, which is on this side. I've got a little hairnet over it, clipped in. It started falling down. I can't be bothered to go back and re-record that section. So it's rather in for a dig, but there we have it. I felt like flashing today. We all have those moments, don't we, my dears? Well, the Fairyland Castle at Disney is as close as Meghan is ever going to get to a palace again, isn't it, my dear? In any serious context. She'll certainly never be welcome in one again, that's for sure. Someone said to me in the comments she's not a princess, so why do people keep referring to her as a princess? Well, technically, my dear, my understanding is that she remains a princess. That was marked as her occupation, wasn't it? On one of the birth certificates, Princess of the United Kingdom, no doubt at Harry's insistence. But as the wife of a prince, no, she's not a blood princess, and she could only ever be Princess Henry. But technically speaking, my understanding is that she remains a princess behind the scenes, much as I hate saying that. But we can rejoice in the fact that as yet, and as ever, she has never used it. She's never brandished that princessy title, although I'm told that behind the scenes it's a pet name for her, that he's always calling her my princess, my darling princess, my queen. No doubt he'll start calling her that when Catherine becomes queen, to try and deflect from the truth, which is that he'll never be king, she'll never be queen. No, never going to happen, no matter whether she is or isn't Princess Henry the Hoover. Do you understand? But having said that, I do actually believe that at some point in time, maybe even closer than I even think, she will brandish that. She will brandish that princessly moniker. I really do think that, because they are in full flow in this moment in time, aren't they? They are mining all the gold that they possibly can, as quick as they can, wheresoever they can. It's like the frenzy of the gold rush. That's what we're seeing here, and actually, they're enjoying it. Well, Prince William has been enjoying much more regal activities in tandem with the Duchess of Edinburgh, in his role as the Duke of Cornwall he was, at the Royal Cornwall Show in Wadebridge. He was appearing as patron of the Royal Cornwall Agricultural Association, and Her Royal Highness was appearing as patron of Association of Show and Agricultural Organisations. What a bloody mouthful. Who comes up with these things? I don't know. Well, this show highlights the best in Cornish heritage and tradition through agriculture, food and drink, entertainment and competition. And the show is established in 1773, and it promotes the improvement of industries in agriculture and its people. And over 200 years later, it's one of the largest agricultural shows in the kingdom, attracting hundreds of thousands every year. There was food and farming in the pavilion showcasing artisan food and drink, Cornish cheeses, jams and gins. Delicious. And at the Duchy of Cornwall Hub, there was a spotlight on mental health. Not so fun. The local nature partnership is involved in the preservation of traditional skills, and it's balanced with future regenerative farming practices. And they were evidently enjoying each other's company very much, weren't they? Getting on as family does, pulling together, knowing each other's place, all around mutual respect, getting on with the job and being admired for it. Sophie graced two of her patronages with her presence. One was Leaf, which promotes sustainable food and farming practices, and also the Girl Guides, who work as a messaging team behind the scenes of the show. The Duke presented the Duchy of Cornwall's award to the farm business, successfully delivering a sustainable approach to farming, forestry and food production. And the Duchess visited the cattle, pig, sheep and countryside area, presenting awards and lifting spirits of the duchy folk. Do you see how the respect that is offered by the Duke of Cornwall for his duchy folk is received and reciprocated in spades? Respect is earned, Harry and Meghan. It is earned, not forced out of people or coerced. Prince William also went to see the regiments of the Army Air Corps in his role as Colonel-in-Chief for the first time at Wattisham Air Base. In his blue beret affair he was, which is nothing like Frank Spencer, despite it being his namesake. Oh, yeah. No, he's Diana Spencer's boy, not Frank Spencer. But in that beret one could get confused. Actually, they were like something out of the A-Team, weren't they? Strutting along as they did. If you've got a problem, our Big Willie will solve it. William said that he was very impressed by the relentless commitment, physical capability and mental acuity on display at the combat PT session, and he thanked the soldiers and their families for the warm welcome. And the King was out visiting the Royal Regiment of Artillery in Larkhill, meeting military personnel and their families from the 21 regiments that form the Royal Regiment. His Majesty heard about the regiment's training and equipment before being invited to fire a light gun. To commemorate His Majesty's first visit as Captain General, the King was presented with an engraved 105mm cartridge, which was fired during their Majesty's coronation. In the Regimental Museum, the King met soldiers and was shown the artillery uniform of King George V. The regiment was founded in 1716, and there are 21 regiments altogether, including the reserves, and altogether they're known as the Gunners, and they've served in every conflict that the British Army has been involved with. Did you see Sophie Edinburgh performing a very regal curtsy for the King as she greeted him at the Royal Windsor Flower Show? She did splendidly, and this year the theme is Patterns in Nature, which was inspired by a book that the King himself wrote called Harmony, A New Way of Looking at Our World, which was released 15 years ago. They took in all of the displays there at the flower show. There was expert discussion and workshops for this 118th edition of the show, of which the King is patron, and it was held at the York Club in Windsor Great Park, and it's a celebration of gardening, nature, food and traditional crafts. Jolly nice. And Sophie looked absolutely luscious in the most dusky of pink tones in this silk dress by Gabriella Hurst, together with Jimmy Choos at the Imperial War Museum. This was for an exhibition on sexual violence in conflict called Unsilenced. It's actually the Kingdom's first major exhibition dedicated to highlighting the matter, and Sophie has dedicated much of her working life as a royal to supporting the women, peace and security agenda, passionately championing gender equality. The free exhibition runs through November, so get down to see it if you're able to. Edward was also busy out and about for Founders' Day. He attended the annual Royal Hospital Chelsea Founders' Day Parade, which celebrates their founder, King Charles II. See how it runs in the family? The parade takes place as close as possible to the 29th of May, which was King Charles II's birthday, and it was also the date that he evaded capture after the Battle of Worcester by hiding in an oak tree. And in tribute, the pensioners on parade wore oak leaves, and the statue of Charles II was specially decorated, this year garlanded with potted oaks around the base. And the Duke of Edinburgh inspected troops and met with Chelsea pensioners who reside at the hospital. These are retirees from the armed forces, you understand, the famous Chelsea pensioners. And the institution itself is 330 years old, and this event that you see has taken place every year since 1692. Queen Camilla marked the 85th anniversary of Operation Dynamo at Dunkirk. This was in honour of the civilian contribution to the war effort. Today, and together with the nation, the King and I would like to remember the heroic and unprecedented civilian war efforts of Operation Dynamo on its 85th anniversary. Over 9 days, an eclectic collection of seafarers, ferry masters, barge hands, fishermen and children with their little ships achieved the great evacuation of more than 338 troops who were fighting with their backs to the sea at Dunkirk. My father, who was amongst their number safely transported home 85 years ago today, recalled wading out to a cement ship to find refuge and rest in its wheelhouse. He noted in his memoirs that the ship was commanded by a midshipman who looked about 12, assisted by a boatswain aged 80. I know that my father, together with his comrades of the British Expeditionary Force and the Allied armies that were fortunate enough to find safe passage, would today be grateful beyond words for this lifeline. Queen Camilla. Well, from one queen to another, it's time for me to wish you a splendid week ahead, my dears, and what's left of the weekend. Thank you so much for your company. If you care to treat me to a cup of coffee, a slice of cake, or a gin and bitter lemon, then my tip jar is in the description box, and I thank you most sincerely. See you next time, my dears. Ta-ra and toodle pip. Channel the royal spirit.